Hey gents, from about the mid-80s to 2008, there was an incredible force in retail called growth. And today we're in a very different market. I want to explore that right now. I'm working on a larger piece to look at the rest of the market in retrospect, but today we're entering what's called the long tail of retail and fashion, and it's a really exciting time for us. I just want to muse on that for a little bit. Give a thumbs up for Wednesday industry videos where I take a step back and instead of looking at brands individually, look at what's going on a wider trend, and make sure you subscribe to learn about the best menswear on the internet and everything else you want to know about this space. So think back to your middle school, high school days. There were probably a handful of brands that made you cool if you wore them. You had, for some of us, it would have been Abercrombie & Fitch, American Eagle, and Hollister. For others, it would have been like J. Crew, Banana Republic, and even Nike when those were becoming very big. For others, it could have been Lacoste and Gap. Insert your own brand here, but at the time, you had a lot of people being served by a few number of brands, especially in retail and fashion. And you saw this everywhere. A lot of people watched the same television shows. There were only a few movies to go see at the time. So from a media and a fashion perspective, all over the place, you had a few number of brands or IPs and technologies that were serving a large number of people. And the way that fashion and retail brands expanded at the time is you brought out a product, it was superior in some way, you developed a customer base and really proved it out, then you raised money and expanded as wide as you could, as fast as you could. You wanted to get into as many malls as possible to reach the maximum number of people. As you expanded, you then advertised on national television, TV, newspapers, and then that growth was then rewarded by Wall Street, and it continued this virtuous cycle. So you open some stores, you see growth, Wall Street says great, they give you more money, so it fuels this virtuous cycle, and at the same time you have customers buying product and your expansion is incredible. That's what really fueled the growth for brands like Gap, J. Crew, Banana Republic, even department stores like Macy's, JCPenney, and some of these really big players in the space, which are all now the boogeymen for the direct-to-consumer companies that talk about cutting out the middlemen, less overhead, higher quality product for a lower price. And now you see brands shuttering all the time that went through that expansion point, and this year hasn't been as bad as last year was. There were a ton of bankruptcies last year, but there's a lot of companies that are still on watch, and you can see my video where I talk about J. Crew, I'll put that up here, and their imminent demise. What we're in today is in the long tail of retail, and this is a concept developed by Chris Anderson, who is editor-in-chief at Wired Magazine. And like I mentioned, first you saw this happen in media. You still have blockbusters today, you still have your Jurassic Worlds and your Marvel movies, but there's a whole ecosystem of films, television, and other media that is being successful, and YouTube is a perfect place for that. Look at this channel, look at Casey Neistat, or any of these big channels where you don't have to serve masses, you just have to serve a small number of people to have success. And it's the same thing in music. You still have Taylor Swift and Drake, but I'd argue that now more than ever is the best time to be a musician because you can develop that small devoted fan base which will support you and you can make a living that way, which wasn't really possible in the world where you had middlemen and record executives that were controlling a lot of the distribution at that point. A lot of this is a causation of the internet and access directly to customers, and you and I see this every single day. You get ads on Instagram for brands you never heard of that really just popped up and started developing products because now the access for a company to get to customers, and I've talked about this in the past, is easier than ever in order to build a brand and start to build that traction before you start to expand. And I know because you guys ask about brands every day that I've never heard of, I absolutely love it. When I started my channel, there were really like Everlane, Bonobos, a handful of others, and there were a lot of what I've learned now, there's a lot of like Wharton grads at the time in 2015 that were just incubating these ideas that saw an opening in the market, like brands like Beckett and Simonon. High quality, affordable footwear at a great price, and now this whole space has exploded. I kind of saw it coming, but there's no way I could have anticipated just how big the space would have gotten in that time. The bottom line is this, and this is what I'm kind of celebrating on this channel. If you want great shoes, you no longer just have to go to Allen Edmonds or Johnson & Murphy. There's literally a dozen brands that make great dress shoes at good prices that undercut those other brands, but also deliver a very high quality product. Maybe not quite at the Allen Edmonds level as I've tried to explore, but you can still get really great options in those price points. We as consumers have more choice. It's very exciting. I encourage you to celebrate it, explore this world. I do want to help you navigate it. That's what I'm trying to do on this channel. But when car manufacturing started in the early 1900s, there were dozens of brands that most people have never heard of today. I'm sure some of you have heard of them, but there's just a time when you're going to see a ton of people enter the space. There's gonna be a lot of competition. We can really enjoy that. The herd will cull down. There will be consolidation in this space, and there's gonna be a lot of brands that you might buy today that will be defunct in 5 years, but I think enjoy them while they're here. So I know it's been a while for a Wednesday video. I've really been working on some infrastructure things around my channel, my schedule, and all kinds of stuff to make sure I can get more out there. I've got all my performance shirts sitting over here. I've got all my denim over here. I've got my summer shoes. I've got everything kind of lined up. I'm just working around some things I got to get done. And so hope you enjoyed my thoughts on the industry right now. Let me know what you think down below. If there are brands that you either have tried to request in the past that I haven't really hit on, or something like that, just make sure you let me know in the comments. I also put a link to my Google spreadsheet where I track brands, which eventually make it onto the channel because I'm trying to catalog as much as I can here. And I really appreciate you watching and supporting, because if you're still watching right now, you're one of my best subscribers, and I really appreciate you coming around and supporting me as much as you do. Until next time, gents, this is the Kavalier. Lonely girl, you are my world. Posture.